when I first went to the physio, I think roughly speaking, I had about that much flexion in my knee, which is like, oh, so bad. And by the time I visited again 3 weeks later, I was sort of about here. Today, we're just a little bit swollen again for reasons that I'll go into probably in another video, actually, because we're now a little bit further on. But yeah, by the time I got back to the physio, I had significantly more flexion in my knee, which is obviously a great thing. The fluid had also gone. So, sounding really good so far, isn't it? However, upon my second visit to the physio, we were just like looking at, okay, like how well has the conservative rehab gone for a start of the meniscus, because that gives you an idea of like whether or not you're likely to fix it through rehab or whether it's going to be another method, so surgery or something like that. But also because the swelling had gone, we had a chance to retest it and actually assess what was going on with the other ligaments. And sadly, my medial collateral ligament was also in distress. So when we did the table test for this side, it barely moved. When we did this one, it was like, it just like flew across the room. It was like, oh, you're not very well attached. It was just really lax, basically. No pain with it, just really lax. So that's a bit concerning because obviously, not obviously. So with your knee, you have a bunch of ligaments. Some of the major ones that we talk about, and they're the kind of like big boys, if you like, are the MCL, the medial collateral ligament, the lateral collateral ligament, the LCL. Inside, and you know, sort of from the back to the front, you've got the ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament, and then from the front to the back, you've got the posterior cruciate ligament. And they're smaller, and they're like live in the knee basically. You will probably have heard like ACL is, you know, a term that gets bandied around a lot. Thing is with these ligaments is if they have a good blood supply, they're really like they're healable. So the MCL's actually got a great blood supply. It's a big, thick ligament normally, in most people. But it actually, it's got a great blood supply, so it heals really well, which is really positive from a perspective of rehabbing. However, the question now is, how much of my ligament have I got? Have I got any of it, or is it a grade 1 like strain, which is, you know, like a smaller kind of tear? It's not the end of the world. It will rehab. Probably looking at 3 to 6 months for rehab, judging by the fact that it moved quite a lot. We think we're probably looking at a little bit more than a grade 1. So we might be looking at more of like a more serious rupture, or even possibly a total rupture. Not a total rupture, likely not a total rupture. And the reason I say that is because I still have an ACL and a PCL at the moment. And often, because the medial collateral ligament is so big, if it goes, it normally takes some of the others with it, basically. So if it was to, my job at the moment is to rehab it, but without going through my medial collateral ligament. Because if I do, the chances are some other structures in the knee, especially with a torn meniscus and no MCL, you haven't got those structures providing stability. So all of a sudden it's on 2 quite small ligaments, and then they potentially will go as well. They're hard to heal, the ACL and PCL, because they live deeper into the knee. They have worse blood supply. So that's why you hear a lot of people getting ACL surgery, because it's much less likely to respond to rehab. That said, you can live without an ACL, as long as you can get your muscles to work correctly around it. So, it's one of those, it's really fucking important. And for top knee function, we hope that we are able to have them all, but we can, we'll still have potential to do stuff with our knees regardless. So it looks like I'm now probably 6 weeks out from when I last spoke to you about my injury, and I've probably got a 3 to 6 month time that I'm looking at now to rehab it, if it's able to be conservatively rehabbed. So, and conservative rehab means without surgery, basically. So just doing your strength exercises to get it back up to working. What we're going to do is I'm going to revisit my physio in a couple of weeks, and we're going to see how well I've done. So fingers crossed. And if it's all looking good, we're going to carry on with the conservative rehab and just carry on getting back in strong around my knee, and just hope that we are in a good place. If we've still got like a lot of laxity in that leg and it's not really helped by the work that I've been doing, then we're going to get an ultrasound on the MCL to see how ruptured it is, to see whether or not surgical repair is necessary, and then we'll probably look at getting an MRI for the meniscus as well, and just look at the other structures of the knee and see how we're doing in there, and then make some decisions about like, does it need to be a surgical, like, because they can just do the whole lot when they're in there. Is that, with the meniscus, again, because it's deep in the knee, it doesn't have a great blood supply. But if the tear is towards the outside or a certain kind of shape, it's more likely to be rehabable. If it's a big flap, it's not so good. If it's a big flap tear, then, we're probably not going to get enough into it to get it to knit back together. So it probably will be surgical, either repair or, whatever they decide to do. Sometimes they snip bits out, just they kind of have a look when they're in there and figure out what they're going to do precisely. So if that is the case, it could be sort of more like waiting for surgery is obviously going to be a thing, and then after that it would be a 6-month rehab. So I'm looking at kind of like probably, I reckon, May, June before I'm back in the room, which is fucking gutting. But like, it is what it is. And obviously I can do a load of stuff at the moment. I can now do loads more than I could do before. I think the reality is, I will be able to do more and more and more towards that point in May, June. And when we talk about that 6-month timescale, that is like a return to sport. So I would expect by that point to be able to jump, to be able to like do powerful movements, to be able to move laterally, to be able to change direction really comfortably and not be worried about my knee. So that would be like, that's the level of knee you want, I think, to come back to something like wrestling, or Olympic weightlifting, or any of the other things I enjoy doing. The interesting thing actually as well is that I don't even do it wrestling. I think wrestling exacerbated it. It probably it's one of those things, isn't it? When you're trying to reach the limit, you're trying to test the edges of your capacity. Sometimes you find them, which is like always the same in sport, isn't it? But I think, wrestling requires so many different movements, and one day I just got a bit too much rotation, a bit too much flexion, and it pissed the existing injury off. I actually did the injury skating, so it was really interesting. I'm going to talk to you about that in a separate video, in fact, because that is worth a whole thing. But yeah, basically I had what I thought was an adductor injury. Turns out it was probably an MCL injury, or me not rehabbing that effectively. Basically put too much pressure on the MCL, and then it went eventually when I, sort of didn't fix it, because I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It's just a bit of a tight adductor. Turns out a little bit more serious than that. And now we are where we are. So I think I'm relatively relatively resigned to the fact that I've got a decent amount of rehab ahead of me. Like, I'm all right to do it. Like, it's good. Like, I can squat, I can box squat. Like, so I still get a big fat barbell on my back and I get to squat big weights. So that makes me happy, even if I can't actually go past parallel at the moment. I know I'm going to be able to keep my muscles super strong. So that makes me happy. Every time I go back to the physio, I get another level of exercises. Like, I've got a lunge now. It's not a very exciting lunge. I have to keep my foot in place. I have to be very careful about the direction of my knee. I have to be conscious of so many things, but it is really is exciting. I even got excited when he was like, you can now do a grapevine in the pool. So I can go I can kind of, do you know what a grapevine is? I don't know. If you didn't do 90s aerobic, you probably won't. But yeah, so I can basically walk like this now in the pool, which is really exciting. Big news. Oh, and I'm allowed to walk backwards as well. So, and it is it's a funny one with rehab. You're constantly getting excited because you get to put more exercises into your portfolio of what you can do. So in the great Venn diagram of injured, if you look at the movements that you can do, you're constantly bringing new movements into that. So the reality is that it's not going to be boring as fuck until May, June. It's an opportunity to get myself strong as I want to speak to some wrestling coaches, and there's a couple of people that I have in mind to talk to that I would like to understand if there's, as we get closer to being able to do more stuff, Are there things that I can do that are wrestling specific drills that I can use to improve my game for when I get back? If not, that's fine, because what I can just do is a fuck ton of conditioning, because my conditioning sucks. And I know that that's like definitely like my downside. My strength is here, my conditioning is here. So that's something that I need to bring up if I want to do it as a thing. And also like just getting strong as fuck throughout the whole body. Like you can't go wrong getting strong, as they say. So worst case scenario, I'm going to end up fucking massive and jacked and I have to find a different sport in June. But I think best case scenario, I think we'll be back in the room. So fingers crossed, I'll be able to do more interesting stuff as we get into spring. That's it. So that's a massive update. So that has been what I've been up to for the last 6 weeks, give or take. I don't know if I explained that, I've been doing loads of strength work in there. I tell you I've been butt squatting. So yeah, not to do that down, because that has been a really important part of the rehab. Doing my adductor work, doing my abductor work, doing my little banded clamshells and stuff like that, like to just try and keep things going while I'm in the stage that I'm in, and just sort of keeping patient with it and remembering that there's fucking tons of stuff that I can do to move myself forward towards my goals, even if it's not the things that I want to be doing. I think that's the most important thing, really. Just keeping the faith is the hardest thing. So yeah, that's my little update. Thanks for sticking around if you did.